Hello, friends. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here tonight. If you don't mind, raise your hand if you've never been to this bookstore before. All right. Welcome, you guys. And I hope this isn't your last time at this bookstore. I feel confident that you will have ample reason by the end of the night to want to return if you don't already. My name's Evan. I am the event manager here at Booksmith. We are an independent bookstore, probably obvious, and a mainstay here of this neighborhood for the last 47 years. We're thrilled to be here, to be doing in-person events again. Appreciate you guys all keeping your masks on. Those of us at the mic, as those of you who have received my many emails know, we took a rapid right before and have all tested negative. Of course, the reason we're here is to celebrate. It's another joyous occasion tonight. We're launching the book Monarch by Friend to All Humans, Heather Bourbeau. Yes. She's joined by one of the pillars of the community here, Kim Shuck, who will be giving a reading as well. Yes. And as if that were not enough, we will kick the evening off with some sea shanties by Salty Walt Walter. Yes, make some noise for Walt. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book. I'm nervous because I wonder if Heather likes it. I didn't run it by her. I told her I'm expecting a grade. I'm sure she'll speak more about it, but I did want to just set it up a little bit. Deceptively slender, Monarch combines research and poetry into a powerful memoir of the American West. It's broken into sections: California, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington, each of which begins with a timeline and proceeds to hone in on some of the specific characters and incidents, shall we say, that have come to define the states, or in many cases, should more commonly define them. Since Kim is going to introduce Heather, I just want to say that I'm proud to call Heather a friend and could not be happier to host this launch here at Booksmith. Congratulations, Heather. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Salty Walt Walter. He has traveled the U.S. and Europe, performing and educating at museums and festivals, and has supported a broad array of historical and cultural activities here in the Bay Area. He is a repeat performer at the National Sea Shanty Festival at Mystic Newport. Back when there was an SF Bay Guardian, he was awarded the title San Francisco's favorite sea shanty band. From sailing tall ships to working with the SF Maritime Museum, he's always quick to offer up a song or explain how systems of power are not always what they seem. Please help me give a warm Booksmith welcome to Salty Walt.
Thank you. Goodness. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's better. So I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, I came for a poetry reading. What's with the sea shanties? My first question is, how many of you are familiar with sea shanties? Nice, nice. I'm going to wager that for a lot of you, sea shanties don't mean the same thing to you that they do to me. And that's not a bad thing. I'm coming at it from a slightly different perspective of the historian and the sea shanty expert. So when I say sea shanties, I'm not referring to Irish songs that you'll hear a lot of tomorrow night. I'm not referring to songs sailors sang when they were ashore drinking at pubs. I'm not referring to songs sailors sang on their off hours on board the ships. I'm thinking specifically of the songs sailors sang to help them get work done. These types of songs that were used as a tool. And what drew me to them is that there's a very short list of historical artifacts that you can go to a museum, and instead of staring at them in a case, you can pick them up, you can handle them, bang them around, stretch them, see how they fit you. And that's one of the things I really like about sea shanties, is because some people look at them as a living tradition, and I would argue that sea music is a living tradition, that it's been going on and people have been learning songs from Grandpa, who went off to the old seaman's home, from Grandma, who used to lead hootenannies further down on Haight Street. But I wanted to look at the idea of lost historical stories, parts of history that are lost. So, for example, when I say I think of sea shanties as something different, I can tell you that on a technical level, how many of you think sea shanties are Irish songs? Impressive. English songs. African American songs. I would have gone with the last one myself, but they originally started off mostly as work songs from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora. And the important thing with music like this was the sailors were looking at it as a tool. And you want a tool to work for you. It's going to work in your specific situations for the jobs you need it to do. And it's also going to result that the songs are going to, these tools are going to work with the ship that you're on, with the culture that you're on, with the group of people and their needs. So the English and the Irish heard these great work songs and couldn't make head nor tail of the African American lyrics. So they wrote their own. And a lot of those things come down to us now. But it's really a distinctly American musical form. And if I had another hour, I would tell you why everyone thinks of it as English or Irish. But the important part in this case is to look at it for its relationship to this lost history. The lost history of African songs, the lost history of the English being excited about Americans losing a battle and spreading the story of this battle that they lost, because they were still smarting a little bit, you know, between the Revolution, the War of 1812. You get to the 1830s, and they're like, well, I'm glad the Yanks got something handed back to them. So I would like to give you this song that's a piece of Western history as the English sang it. Santillano gained the day, hooray, Santillano. I didn't teach you the chorus. You're supposed to learn the chorus as I sing it, but it helps if I tell you that, doesn't it? Okay. With me. Hooray, Santillano. Hooray, Santillano. And General Taylor ran away along the plains of Mexico. Along the plains of Mexico. Once more. Along the plains of Mexico. I like it. Santillano gained the day, hooray, Santillano. And General Taylor ran away all on the plains of Mexico. 'Twas on the field of Molly del Rey, hooray, Santillano. Old Santy lost a leg that day, all on the plains of Mexico. It was a fierce and bitter strife, hooray, Santillano. Hand to hand they fought for life, all on the plains of Mexico. Oh, Santillana's men were brave, hooray, Santillano. And many found a hero's grave, all on the plains of Mexico. Oh, Santillana fought for fame, hooray, Santillano. And Santillana gained a name, all on the plains of Mexico. Now, some of you might have noticed a couple of problems with the history in that song. When talking about the Spanish-American War, we won. General Taylor didn't run away. As a matter of fact, on the field of Monterey, which the sailors called Molly Del Rey, because sailors do that with a lot of words. On the field of Monterey, he didn't even fight Santillano. I mean, Santillano was the man in charge of the army, let's be fair, but he wasn't there. To check my notes, it was General Ampudia, which I didn't know. I had to double check that one. And Santillano, if you haven't guessed at this point, was of course General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna. Once again, never let that come in the way of a good song. As a matter of fact, they start talking about Santillana gaining a name and fighting for fame. At this point, Santillana had already been president of Mexico, let alone general in charge of their forces. But and his leg, he lost it 13 years before when he did fight General Taylor. And a stray bullet, as they were firing into the swamps, caught him in the leg. It got infected. He was hiding in the swamps because he ran away from the battle dressed as an infantryman. None of this is the narrative that we hear in that song. I'm not placing bets on any side. I'm just saying there's a narrative here. And this is the narrative that the English put forward, which is interesting that it's so different than the narrative that the Americans put forward. It's a lost piece of history, this artifact that's dug up like a gem out of the sand, this little piece of history. This is what worked for those sailors in that place in that time, and we're lucky to have it passed hand over hand and polished like a river stone until it gets to us. And I think that idea is very fascinating when it comes to us. I love that it gives us a window into time. I love that it gives us touch tones with so many different cultures and people as you go back. This is normally where I'd segue into a long talk about African-American shanties, but you did come here for Monarch tonight, and so I would like to be able to move on to that. I have a quote on the subject of these things from a renowned, I have a quote from a renowned shanty authority, so I thought I would read it to you. "The past is another country, as surely as the future is an undiscovered one. I've often heard it said there's no one right way to sing a folk song. It could be argued that the same is true of history. The recollection of events as one group or another holds on to them are like different facets of a prism, of which we all probably will never have every angle so as to recreate the white light it came from. There is a natural inclination upon hearing one of these songs to think it's all right there on its face, to think that this is all there is to know, when in fact these artifacts come down to us from different people with different objectives, in the words that they put in the ways that they were sung, and as they pass from hand to hand, they get polished like a sea stone. Forgive me for plagiarizing. More importantly, when we look at any one interpretation of the song, we are in fact breaking it apart and losing the harmony of voices that came together in getting the song to our point in history. So, I would like to share with you a song that for me is synonymous with San Francisco. It's a little piece of California history. San Francisco was one of the two biggest locations for Shanghaiing, Port Townsend, Washington being the other. I'm sure if you know this much on shanties, I'm sure you're all good on Shanghaiing. There were many people along the Barbary Coast, which for this purposes was actually Pacific Street up in North Beach. And a lot of different people. There were some people with piers, with bars on piers that literally dropped through into the water, and they could drop you right into a boat and deliver you. And this fun little bit of human trafficking, as American history goes, was considered all well and good. It did serve a corporate interest, and that's always important with human trafficking. but it's a local character. And it's funny because although we have some records of a Larry Marr here, there are variations of this song from different places. There's even one in the Smithsonian collection with a broadside stating that Larry Marr was there in New York. And for all I know, he might have been. But I'd like to sing you the one about San Francisco. The chorus is a very easy chorus to pick up, although it's longer than the other one. In the old Virginia lowlands, lowlands, low. In the old Virginia lowlands, low. Now, I'm going to ask you to do the folk tradition thing, and you're going to sing that more as I sing it to you. And that one has its own little bit of history. Why Virginia lowlands if we're in San Francisco? That was a really popular tune. The sailors liked it. It goes back at least to the Napoleonic era. The older folk songs with lowlands in it were referring to the lowlands of Holland. When it came to the States, there were a lot of Southern folks who it became the lowlands of Virginia, just like you have Shenandoah talking about the Shenandoah Valley. But by the 1850s, it was here in San Francisco. In Frisco town there lived a man, and Larry Marr was his name. And in the days of the Cape Horn trade, he played the old Shanghai game. In the old Virginia lowlands, lowlands, low. In the old Virginia lowlands, low. Now a hell ship she was wanting hands of full red-blooded tars. So Larry and the missus they primed the beer from the big 5-gallon jar. In the old Virginia lowlands, lowlands, low. In the old Virginia lowlands, low. Now 5 or 6 old drunken shellbacks standing at the bar, and Larry he was serving them from the big 5-gallon jar. In the old Virginia lowlands, lowlands, low. In the old Virginia lowlands, low. Shellbacks and farmers just the same sailed into Larry Marr's and found their way around Cape Horn, helped by the big stone jar. In the old Virginia lowlands, lowlands, low. In the old Virginia lowlands, low. From the Barbary Coast steer clear, me boys, as well from Larry Marr's, or else damn soon Shanghai'd you'll be by the big 5-gallon jar, bound away on a skysail ship around Cape Horn so far. Goodbye to all the boys and girls, and to Larry's 5-gallon jar. In the old Virginia lowlands, lowlands, low. In the old Virginia lowlands, low. Thank you very much. I am honored for Heather and Kim to share the time with me. Thank you all.
Y'all keep it going for Salty Walt. Thank you. That was wonderful. It is always my honor to introduce Kim Shuck. Kim embraces the fool and jester qualities of being a modern poet and artist. She's a devotee of San Francisco, whose hills she wanders nearly always on foot. Her maternal grandparents met at the Polish Hall on Shotwell, and she spent many hours with her mother and grandmother wandering the Mission Street Miracle Mile, taking books out of the Mission Branch Library and watching aquarium fish on the ground floor of what used to be Hales. She firmly believes in carrying a bubble wand, keys, pen, and notebook, and cat's cradle string at all times. Kim is widely published in journals, anthologies, and a couple of solo books. She enjoys volunteering in SFUSD elementary school classrooms to share her loves of origami, poetry, and basket making. In other words, math of various kinds. In 2019, Shuck was awarded an inaugural National Laureate Fellowship from the Academy of American Poets and a PEN Oakland Censorship Award. She's a hero of mine and of so many others. Kim, thank you for being here, and if you would all help me welcome Kim Shuck.
I apologize for the mask. The last time I took one of those nasal swabs, I got a sinus infection, so I'm avoiding it these days. It's not that I think they give them to most people, it's just that I have bad allergies and, that happens. So it's going to be a little bit like eating a caramel with a wrapper on. It's hard to tell if this is fog or prayer smoke, and the singing of flowers and horns already in some places, these poems wisping into snakes, and some dissolving going who knows where, or falling into the dark of buried mirrors. And as long as we're doing ships. Underfoot and sidewalk, among the tall ships wrapped tight in the earth now, east towards the recreated waterfront, teacup full of atmosphere, charming, historical, and the singer holds the mic so you can sing along. We know all the words. Foghorn signal so that you can avoid bumping into people, their tents on the sidewalk, an unsightly need that could make you feel almost human. These ships remember ocean, tight quarters, sweat, and sway. Some days they tremble, riding waves of imagination. We made believe and made real. These bricks, as solid as anything, things being what they are, could burst into moths, or shrouded restaurant tables in narrow streets. A palm full of seeds that every newcomer thinks they've discovered. I myself have been discovered in every decade of my life. Try not to break too many dreams on the rocks or on the tent poles. It can take a minute to get your footing. The hillside remembers being wild, and the trees still talk about the orchard that replaced purple bunch and rattlesnake grass. The arroyo, salamanders under ceramic pots and sing songs about wet years under the bay laurel, and the yerba buena explain the fog and how the hillsides came to be. White roses grew from the rootstock after the grafts failed, and the bearded iris bolted. Every 10 years or so, saffron crocus bloom under the Mirabelle plums. Slightly different bit of history. This is for John Trudell. Hey, John, look at them play love like a word find game, play politics, and there along the creek, the people are talking story and patterns and rhythms with the water, who's trying her best to love us. John, it's raining again in San Francisco. The clouds come close, come in, and we're talking about islands in the bay online. They're selling a treasure map, and the people are whispering love to the small rocks and scattering them on the beach. One morning can change everything, John. One morning of press and fret, song and threat. I can hear you from here. I can hear you from then. If I sit on the porch, you know the way. There's an extra plate, one way and the other. People are here to make sure other people are fed. For a moment, gray wolves are back in California. Oh, what it takes to smuggle gray fur back into this place, to birth these scraps of story here in this far west, this dry west, to birth them damp in the crackled grass on these hills, to sing to the gasping trees with relearning voices, and caress with a snarl of new fur, of gray fur, and curious, cautious, frog chasing. The guardians are back. They're back and gathering. Okay. I think I'm going to finish with this one. Headstones. That you might be a word like the feel of huckleberries on my tongue, the shiver and strange harmony of it, that you might be those longed-for fall afternoons and the visit to the butterflies, the breakfast diner, and all that. You might be a drive over the past, the headstones that say Limerick in marble carved by hand and by rain. That you might be the lemon and basil smell that clings to my hair today, that you might breathe for me. Thank you. Sorry, I got distracted looking to see if the person trying to get in was my partner, and I forgot I was going to introduce Heather. Just by applause, how many people know Heather? Which is why I'm going to introduce her in an entirely different way. Heather and I met because of Paul Corman Roberts. And then I think most of our contact was over the pandemic, really. We read together in Zoom, so it was like... And then there was a reading in Berkeley. And essentially every single time I have heard her words, they've settled right into that right place. You know what I mean? And this work is so incredible. It was such an honor to blurb it. Make a huge amount of noise for Heather Bourbeau.
Wow, I'm feeling a little choked up. This was like the dream team for me, so I'm super excited. Thank you so much for joining me to celebrate the launch of my book. Oh my God, I'm just realizing the Shashi Bulis are over there. Hey, hon. Like people are coming out of the woodwork, and this makes me very, very happy. I want to thank Evan and Booksmith for hosting us. This is lovely. Buy all the books here. Buy all the books here. Kim and Walt, like I honestly, when I was thinking of like Ma can attest to this. When I was thinking like, well, in my dream scenario, this is the dream scenario. So thank you so much. And the feel of huckleberries on my tongue, girl, I don't even know. Like that is so beautiful. I want to thank Cornerstone Press, particularly Ross Tangadal, who was the spearhead behind accepting and making Monarch the beautiful thing that I think it is. Julia Kaufman helped create the cover. They are in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. So this is me just virtually thanking them. But I had this idea in my head. They thought I was crazy, but they went with it anyway. And I'm pleased as punch. To the early readers and blurbers, some of you are here tonight. Thank you so much. And everyone who helped me do research and fact check this collection. So as Evan said, it's Overlooked Histories from the U.S. West that I was raised in. I was born in Reno, Nevada, Battleborn. And if you want to deconstruct that motto, I'm happy to do that with you. It's actually a very interesting history, but I won't nerd out. We moved to California back when we used to say junior high, when I was in junior high. My mom was fifth generation Oregonian. My dad was second generation Washingtonian, Spokane. So I grew up traveling these 4 states and thinking that I had some sense of the history because we would talk. We were a family that would, casually talk history, and that I don't. I really am still digging into the histories and still learning so much about my own personal family history and its relationship to this land. And so this collection comes from that search for these tidbits that I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I never knew that. I say I was born in Reno, but I was raised and born on unceded Washoe, Paiute, and Shoshone land. I was raised on unceded Maidu land. I live currently in unceded Lishan Ohlone land. And I really encourage everybody to donate to the Sigori Land Trust, Sigori Land Trust. And I have a QR code at the front if you want to take a photo of that and make a donation to rematriate the land that we are living on. So also at the front, you'll get a little tasty treat from the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Company. It has, today's date and the fact that it's Monarch, but it also has a little bit of history. These fortune cookies were created by a Japanese immigrant to San Francisco, Hajiwara, who you may know from the Japanese tea garden in the 1890s. So they are not Chinese. The reason that the Chinese took over the production of this, thank you so much, Trent, was because the Japanese internment during World War II. So I hope you look at fortune cookies a little differently, and they're still tasty, so, And if you're an educator, there's a teaching guide. The teaching guide looks a little different than this. This is the early version of the teaching guide, but it's available on the website, and also I'm happy to give you links to it if you're a teacher. And the publisher said that if you're a teacher and you want to actually use this in lesson plans, they're happy to do bound copies of the teaching guide for you. So feel free to reach out to me if you want to use this in any of your lesson plans. So I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to do Washington to California just to shake it up a little bit. And I'm not normally nervous, but I'm just like so thrilled that you guys are all here. Anyway, so I'm like, thank you. Unfortunately, it is true we are doomed to repeat history when we don't know it. And this is called the Tacoma Method. By the rails, by the mill, at the head of the Puget Sound, little Canton grew, pastel paper curtains and bamboo furniture, narrow gardens and temples with joss sticks, stores that sold porcelain and rice, teas and silks, men who worked canneries and lumber camps, sawmills and coal mines. February 1885, Chinese and white merchants celebrated Lunar New Year together. Gong hei fat choi, congratulations and be prosperous. You have escaped the harm of Nyan, the mountain beast that eats everything in its path. They spoke too soon. That month, Mayor said all Chinese must go. Come November, 500 angry whites, including mayor, including police, gathered and marched down by the rails, by the mill, went door to door, secure in their anger, pulled children and elders from homes, businesses, gave orders to leave, forced 200 to walk 8 miles to board trains that went on tracks the Chinese helped build. Then, like Nyan, they ate everything in their path, setting little Canton on fire. Fire department defended rail timbers, let Chinatown burn. On the day that 27 were indicted, including mayor and fire chief, a local German club threw a gala in their honor. They were cheered en route to trial, welcomed back with a band of parties and heroes never convicted. One resident praised the pogrom, said it was common practice to expel a community that had ceased to be useful and had become inconvenient, dubbed it the Tacoma method, said it would go far to immortalize the pleasant city. Neon, I learn, has no shame. In Oregon, my people, you would think with a highfalutin French name that we're special. This is the muddy side of my family, so the Irish, Scottish, English, whatever, name it, we've got it. We were loggers, lumber mill people, miners, and some of my family worked for Chevron, which I'm just going to read you. Yeah, my book has footnotes. I'm going to read you the footnote. You know it's a Bourbeau book when there's footnotes. The town of Chevron, Oregon was owned by Chevron Hickson Company of Bend. It was fully portable. When all timber had been felled in an area, the company loaded the houses on rail cars and moved to another logging site. Chevron. Oregon high desert homestead, Virginia ponderosa waiting to be ravaged. Blessed are the Sitka spruce, Douglas fir that make their cutters work. They will stay longer in the earth. Chevron Hickson, hunger deep, demanding, more, each acre felled, more. Scandinavian bachelors axed until sun touched ground. Boxcar bunkhouses lifted and loaded onto rails, south to New Forest, fast pace, clear cut. Lumber boom, wives and children, porches that folded, roads bulldozed and left, latrines built and covered, cookhouse, bathhouse, postmaster, barber, tavern, school, all lifted and loaded. A movable town, no replanting of people or pine. By 1950, 200,000 acres hewn, Chevron sold, but in 1920, the company had donated 1,000 acres for City Park. Half a century later, we would gather under those pines. Generations of men who worked the mills, their family and friends. We ate potato salad, drank soda, played horseshoe. The youngest of us collected rocks, climbed trees, listened to the woodpecker, the drumming of the ruffed grouse. So I know, poetry, it's rough to stay focused. So I was going to read 2 more, but then I realized the timing of the year. And so is it okay if I read 3 more? Okay. So now we're moving to my original home state of Nevada. And the wackiness that many people associate with Southern Nevada. Miss Atomic Blast. 1951 Vegas was young, small, and ignorant, if not innocent. 6 hotels on the Strip, Sinatra debuted at the Desert Inn, and the Nevada test site became a spectacle. Calendars were given with detonation times, best places to watch. Showgirls and singers, craps and blasts. Who could ask for anything more? Atomic cocktails and penthouse views, sunglasses and souvenirs, toys and candies. Dawn bomb parties to revel in the lighting of a night sky. A Sands chorus girl danced on Angel's Peak as test cloud bloomed behind. Her poses named apprehension and impact, awe and survival. Tests were named Annie and Priscilla, Hornet and Bee. At the El Rancho, a young dancer was crowned Miss Atomic Blast, awarded 10 pounds of mushrooms. In 1957, another showgirl won Miss Atomic Bomb, icon of blonde curls, red lips, white bikini with cotton mushroom from hips to chin. Flash-blinded sheep. Joshua tree smolders. Burns killed livestock. But General said the worst was a mouthful of dirt. The government said no danger outside the bombing range. 41 years, 928 tests. Soldiers who witnessed were more likely to die from leukemia, prostate, and throat cancers. And now, as fans of TV's Chernobyl rush to relish its devastation, the U.S. Department of Energy offers tours of the Nevada site, calls Sedan Crater the perfect place for a group photo. The pit created by a 104 kiloton device, 630 feet underground. Radiation signs hang from wire fences. The tour is booked out for a year. And because, we're getting to that time of year, I thought I would read about everybody's favorite Jewish utopian society in northern Nevada. So, another little footnote. In the late 1890s, the Hebrew Agricultural Society of the U.S. unveiled a plan to triple Nevada's populations with thousands of Eastern European Jews. In 1897, Governor Reinhold Sadler commissioned Jewish entrepreneurs Morse Cohn and Theodore Hofer to take out an option on a 5,500-acre plot in Wellington. The collectivist agreement was that each family would own a home and some private property. They would all share ownership and production of the remaining land. In October, 17 families signed deeds and 62 colonists traveled to Wellington, with 12 more families to follow. And where's Wellington? Oh, well, it's in Smith Valley. Yeah. It's not far from Reno. Does that help? It's like, well, everything's east of Reno if it's in Nevada, but it's like a little southeast of Reno. Smith Valley Haggadah. They arrived, seeking a season of freedom, crops of grain, trees of fruit, lured by lies and desperation from Austria, Poland, Russia. Blood and fire and pillars of smoke. 1897, Nevada Depression, silver boom bust, welcomed 13 families to Wymore Ranch, high desert, bordered by pine nut mountains, buckskin range, bend of the Walker River, orthodox beliefs, collectivist ideals. Whoever is hungry, let them eat. And more joined. Farmers, carpenter, butcher, cobbler, tailor, blacksmith, wagon maker, rabbi, cantor. House and barns, tunnels and ditches, land cleared to farm alfalfa, wheat, potatoes, hay. A holy convocation made brief and brutal. Colony president and secretary mortgaged crop, absconded with best horses and best wagon. Those that remain could not pay to reach families or friend for aid. We thank you for the land and for the fruit. Next year in Jerusalem. I want to thank you for your patience, remind you to buy all the books, including this lovely book right here, And my book that came out in December is a conversation with Irish-Australian poet Anne Casey. It's called Some Days the Bird. It's also available at the front. Thank you. And I'm going to end with, and don't forget to get your tasty treat at the front desk. Okay. This is the title poem, Monarch, the Last California Grizzly. Urzos, Arctos, Californicus, bear, monarch, to rule alone. Colin Preston killed 200 grizzlies in one season. Mariposa Hotel served fried grizzly for 75 cents. A trapper made furniture from bear parts, presented a chair to President Johnson, 4 legs and claws, a cord to push its head, its gnashing teeth from under the seat. In 1889, Hearst asked a reporter to become a hunter, capture the last wild grizzly. 5 months later, deep in southern coastal wilderness, lured by honey and mutton, Monarch was captured. Gagged and collared, one leg well anchored, a rope around his loins, tethered to trees at night. He bit and tore at restraints, chewed the chains, splintered his teeth, spattered the trap with bloody froth. In San Francisco, Monarch was feted and feared, moved from gardens to park to zoo. By the midwinter exposition, the ostriches drew more spectators. But in '06, a city beaten by quake and fire looked to Monarch's survival for inspiration. 5 years later, he would be put down, skinned and stuffed. His remains buried, then exhumed. His skull lost, cracked, and broken. His taxidermied body, the model for the new state flag. On the white background, red star to left, walks a bear, head bent slightly, mouth open, teeth bright, free to feel the soft and rough of the ground, the green underneath its unchained feet. Thank you.
Y'all keep it going for Heather Bourbeau. Thank you so much, Heather, and congratulations on this beautiful book. And thank you also to Kim Shuck and to Salty Walt thank you guys. We also have some of Kim's books at the register, and I encourage you to buy them and give them to your friends and also take them home with you. And as Heather mentioned, all of the books in the store are actually for sale, so you can take home whichever ones speak to you tonight. Thank you guys all so much for being here. I hope you had a good evening and that your evening continues to be good. Cheers.